Welcome back to Teaching Smarter, Not Harder by activating students' own social, emotional, and cognitive skills development. This lesson is part 2 about soaring questions. As mentioned in part 1, we explained the essential importance of asking groups of kids questions that matter in order to exercise and activate their own potential for collaboratively and creatively solving problems and resolving challenges. The questions we use soar because they are questions that matter. In other words, they are questions that draw out kids' own intelligence, their own insights, their own perspectives, and their own creative problem solving abilities. The letters in SOAR create an acronym, and the letters stand for stretching, open ended, age appropriately challenging, relevant, and respectful. In part 1 of this series, we explained stretching questions, what they are, how to design them, and their value for your students' brain development and engaged learning. This lesson, part 2, will focus on the O in the SOAR acronym, open-ended questions, their structure and their critical importance for students' engaged learning. To support you in the design and implementation of open-ended questions, we'll be examining 3 main points. Open-ended questions always have more than one right answer, unlike closed-ended questions that only have one answer. Open-ended questions enliven and expand fresh thinking about everyday situations, unlike lectures, which do not have that effect. And open-ended questions spark engagement, discussion, and carryover behaviors, unlike incentive charts. So let's take those points one by one now. One of the great advantages of open-ended questions is that there is always more than one right answer. That alone is essential for nurturing the natural-born spark of creativity within young children. Another profound advantage of engaging groups of children with open-ended questions is their combined discoveries of how much they have in common with their classmates, like feelings and values. Even though they're all very different in lots and lots of ways, they get to discover by hearing each other's answers that deep down, they all know what it feels like to get hurt feelings. They all understand the importance of playing fair. They all want to have healthy relationships. They all can figure out what's safe and what isn't, plus so much more. Discovering similarities like that within a group of peers decreases isolation and has been shown to immeasurably increase students' ongoing, self-sufficient, collaborative problem solving with solutions that work for everyone, which is also known as win-win-win, which is an absolutely essential attitude and mindset for the long-term well-being of all people, of animal friends, of our whole wide world, and the environment as well. Unfortunately, too often, we see the use of closed-end questions, one-answer questions which don't really lead anywhere, kind of like this. So if we want real learning to happen in our classrooms, then expanding our skills at creating more open-ended opportunities for students to think about and resolve their own challenges is an essential direction for professional development. Okay, so now get ready to pause the next slide where you will see open-ended and close-ended questions. Read each of them, compare them, and if you can, think back to when you were a young student. How much would the close ended questions have enticed you, engaged your curiosity and your problem solving abilities? Or how would you have felt if your teachers had asked you and your classmates more of those open ended questions? All right, in just a moment, this hand covering the chart is going to go away. And once it does, you can hit the pause button for as long as you need to compare and contrast these open ended and close ended questions. When you're ready, just start the lesson up again. So, how does all of this strike you so far? Some taking this course might be thinking, are the instructors crazy? They want me to not tell a class full of preschoolers what to do and how to behave? I mean, what could possibly go wrong besides everything? Well, if those kinds of thoughts are running through your mind, you are not alone. But this is where brain science comes to the rescue. And a little further into the course, we'll be explaining many more fascinating and very practical details. But for now, research is very clear about the fact that one sided lectures are not the way for real engaged learning to happen in the classroom. But open ended questions that are well crafted do enliven and expand fresh thinking about everyday situations. In other words, well crafted open ended questions clear the way for looking, for thinking, and feeling with new points of reference, with new perspectives, with less cloudy and more precise attention. We could even say more mindfully. Pretty much everyone agrees that lectures, by their, oh, sorry, pretty much everyone agrees that lectures, by their one sided nature, do not have the capacity to enliven engaged responses. So, we have another important point about creating open ended questions. Sometimes there's just no way around asking questions that elicit only one word responses. So, whenever that happens, the most helpful response from the teacher is to ask who, what, where, when, why, and how questions, because ultimately the intention of this approach is to spark engagement, discussion, and carryover behaviors. For self sufficiently carrying over to the playground, and self sufficiently carrying over to lunchtime, and self sufficiently carrying over into cleanup time, something that incentivizing posters and rewards charts are not capable of helping you to achieve so smoothly and with such genuine student ownership. Well managed classrooms are a joy for teachers and for students. Creative educators understand that only when students regularly exercise their own collaborative problem solving skills are they willing and are they prepared to resolve their own challenges, whether predictable or unpredictable, which of course is a number one school readiness skill and thereby a number one life skill for that matter. Open ended questions are a big key to your well managed classroom success, enabling you to teach smarter, not harder, by activating your students' own social, emotional, and cognitive skills development. In our next lesson, we'll prepare you to design age appropriately challenging questions for your students, which is actually a very fun topic. So, bye for now.